Hello viewers, the latest season of the Manufacturers Cup is upon us once again, which means of course I need to choose a manufacturer. I've decided to go for Mitsubishi this time around. This is a brand that I have not picked before, so should be something a little bit different. This first race is a long one, 30 laps around Interlagos. We're looking at about 45 minutes for this race. Hard tyres and soft tyres required. Let's jump in. Okay, jumping into the qualifying session, obviously important. And it's my first time to properly try out this car around this track. Trying to do the boys and girls back at the Mitsubishi factory, very proud of course. Now coming out of the pit lane, came out right in front of this Toyota Supra, and it made it a little bit tricky to kind of find myself some space. However, that was about to get a little bit worse here as we go a little bit wide past the track limits, and that inevitably hands me a penalty, which comes at a very bad time. Because the penalty line here is on the main straight, kills your lap, kills your momentum, and prevents me from starting this qualifying session in the way I'd like. So I created a nice-ish gap there, but now I have to kind of surrender it to the Supra that was behind me. And so we both kind of get compromised there as we both begin our first flying lap. And now if I do happen to be quicker than this guy, then, well, I'm going to be losing time as we're going to have to go for the overtake, which isn't what you really want to be doing on a qualifying lap. Anyway, a little bit later on in the lap, you can see that he does actually pull away on the exit of the infield section, and then I decide, you know what, let's lift off, sacrifice this lap here, give myself some space, but he actually makes a massive mistake through the final corner, and then I'm immediately back on him again. So the timing, the positioning here, honestly, not ideal at all. For our first round in the manufacturers, good to have the exhibition season back as I lose all manner of control through the center S, deciding then to abort the lap and go again. Give myself some clean space on a alternative strategy here in the qualifying session compared to everyone else. So let's go and try to get an actual clean lap. Obviously through the center S, really taking liberties with the track limits as you can do on this game. Kind of looks very strange to do that, but that is the way that you have to do it around here. Now this lap was a lot cleaner than the previous one. Obviously no traffic in front or around me to affect my lap. Through the final corner, a little bit wide on the exit, and it's really easy to do that. You're trying to get on the power as early as possible to maximise speed onto this straight. Staying to the left hand side for the quickest draw to the line, and it's just shy of 4/10 away from pole position, but I'm 9th. That shows you just how close this is. I have just enough time to go again, get a fresh set of soft tyres and try to beat that time. Still in 9th as it stands, but I know that there was possible improvement. It wasn't a perfect lap. 4/10 to try to put myself on pole position. So through the center S, that seemed quite good, that felt quite good. Coming down towards turn 4, looking for that 100 board on the right hand side, on the brakes just after. And I'm 400ths of a second up. That's not too bad, I suppose. I was hoping for maybe a little bit more, but we'll take any improvement at this moment. But it's through the middle sector where I really could improve, as I had a couple of iffy moments on my previous lap. So maximising the track limits there, almost beyond the line, but not quite getting that penalty this time around. And through the awkward middle sector, the car rolling through here quite nicely. The Mitsubishi seems to be more of a handling based car. It always has been in Gran Turismo, and so through that middle sector this car feels pretty good. Feels not too bad compared to some of the other cars, especially like the BMW which I've chosen before. Very big car, feels quite cumbersome for a sector like that. We've gone purple at the end of the second sector, and we've gained a quarter of a second through that part of the circuit, but I wasn't quite ready for how close this was about to be. Oh my god, how close is that? Even 10th place is 3/10 off. This is going to be incredibly close. So let's run through the starting order here. So the Spaniard actually goes a little bit quicker on his final lap, 30.4, with the Supra there just shy of a 10th behind. I'm very close behind that. So lots of us cars here in the top 5, top 6, top 7 within just a few tenths. So 5th place is only 0.17 away from pole position. So this was set up to be a very close race, starting 3rd on the grid. Now, in terms of the strategy, this is quite important for this race. You have to use the soft and the hard tyre, so quite an interesting difference here. No medium tyre required, and you couldn't use it even. Now, I had a half a look at the Supra in front going into the first corner. Didn't quite work, but I quite quickly established here that the car in front was on the hard tyre, so a lot of cars would jump onto the hard tyre straight away to get it out of the way. As he gets a poor run on the exit there of turn 4, I can just sneak up the inside here, up the hill in towards 6th and 7th, and we can claim 2nd place immediately. And so this is good progress. It seems as though these top 2 are on the hard tyre. They've gone for that strategy, which on paper is the strongest strategy. You get the worst tyre out of the way straight away, and then when your car is lighter you can do longer stints on the soft tyre. So at some point during this race I would have to jump onto the hard tyre and get a couple of laps done on that tyre. But for now, all we're trying to do is capitalise on the grip that we do have, especially compared to these other guys. You can see the Supra behind just dropping off immediately. I would say that the soft tyre compared to the hard should be worth 2nd a lap, you would have thought, at least. So going for the lead now on the main straight. He's going to go defensive fully to the left hand side. I'm going to try and hold him to the left if I can. At the last moment swing over to the right hand side to get a better angle into the center S, and you can see the difference there, night and day, as I'm easily able to sail around the outside and take the lead of the race. I was having to slightly worry here down the hill, perhaps the lack of top end compared to the Porsche. Could have maybe gone for the reply, but didn't quite happen, as we now settle into 1st place. So from here it's really a case of just trying to manage the tyres, manage the gap, and not make any mistakes. Of course, penalties are always a possibility around here. A couple of areas such as this corner here on the exit, which I of course did in qualifying. So trying to avoid any mistakes. It's all about consistency, trying to get the tyres to live as long as possible. And given that I'm not too familiar with this brand, this car, you have to work out which tyres are going to wear out first, and then drive accordingly and adjust the brake balance to suit. So a good first couple of laps here, getting into the lead and trying to extend that gap, now over 1.3 seconds. So we're definitely quicker. The strategy seems to be working so far. Those guys behind definitely on the hard tyre, as I think one of them goes in, as you can see the Supra, cozy snow vibe, goes into the pit lane. So that kind of confirmed that that guy was on the hard tyre, as we suspected. But we just continue. It's always good to know what others are doing, but ultimately you have to focus on your own race and just drive your own race as well as you possibly can. We're going to fast forward this to lap 3. I'm just looking at the gap here as my fellow Brit goes through into 2nd, and the gap was about 2.5 as that happened, as we still have to be very conscious of some cars that started behind me, which may well have also been on the soft tyre. So even though they started behind and they were slightly slow in qualifying, that doesn't mean that they don't have good race pace and could still be a threat. Sometimes the biggest threat could be someone who starts sort of 7th or 8th. You don't really think that they've got the pace, but they maybe just had a bad qualifying, but actually they turn out to be very quick in the race. So you never quite know. The gap seemed to stabilise to this guy, as we seem to trade fastest laps. I set a 3:49, he set a 3:16 on those laps there. So obviously very close between us. So you can see here I was actually gaining quite a lot through the centre S, as I'm not sure what car this guy is driving. I can't really see what it is, but I seem to have the handling capability through that corner, at least the long left. But through this final corner it would be the other way round, and this guy would pretty much gain on me every time, and you see the gap comes down from 2.3 to 2.1, 2.0. I'd lose a couple of tenths there. So we're definitely trading depending on the corner that we were going through. But it was just up to me to just keep managing the tyres. As you can see, perhaps the front, actually it's really hard to say, but it seems that the front and the rear seem to be wearing quite evenly. Perhaps the front a little bit more than the rear, but certainly the right's more than the left, given corners like this, very long left-handers that you have here at Interlagos. And of course it is a counterclockwise circuit, so the right-hand tyres do tend to wear out more than the left. We're going to fast forward here to lap number 10, and this was my first mistake really. You see here, just going beyond the track limits, a mere couple of pixels, but it's enough to be handed the 1 second penalty. The gap was still about 2.5 seconds back to Cap Galia, if that's how you say the name, and that would come dwindling down now as we serve this 1 second penalty. Of course, you don't necessarily lose 1 second. It tends to be a little bit more because the horrific placement of the penalty zone on this circuit really does hurt you very badly. And it turns out this guy is driving the Porsche 911 as the gap comes immediately down to below 1 second. I'd say we actually lost about 2 seconds as a result of that. But no need to panic just yet. That was very frustrating. And, you know, races can swing on tiny moments like that. A 2 second loss, it might not seem like much right now, but that could come back to haunt me towards the end of the race. So now we have this this Porsche 911 for company. I felt like I had the better measure of this guy. He wasn't really gaining on me, I wasn't really pulling away, but it seemed like we had even pace, and therefore he might struggle to keep with me, or at least overtake me. Of course, the only thing in his favour now, that he's a lot closer, is the slipstream, which could work in his favour as we head onto this very long straight. But the Lancer Evo here, not too bad on the straights. I think the Porsche isn't one of the strongest either, so we're both about average down the straights together, but he actually dives into the pit lane there at the end of, I think that was lap 12, and therefore I thought that was quite early. I saved it till lap 14. I really wanted to do as little laps on the hard tyre as possible, and therefore we're going to jump in here at the end of lap 14, peeling over to the left hand side as that front right really beginning to wear out, but we move on to the hard tyre. The Mitsubishi boys and girls there in the pit lane doing a fantastic job as ever, rejoining the circuit here in third place, and it's quite hard to judge exactly the situation. So the Porsche that was behind me is now just in front, as you can see, about 2.5 seconds the other way round instead. So I have lost a little bit of time here, as my lap times towards the end of that stint did go down into the 132s, whereas before it was well inside the 131s, ideally into the high 30s, but I wasn't quite that quick. But anyway, on the hard tyre, obviously a lot of adjusting to do here. The car has far less grip than it did before. This was a really interesting moment because the guy in front had a penalty, and I wanted to go into the pit lane here at the end of this lap, but I don't think I could have actually gone on to the left-hand side there. I mean, you tell me, would I have had enough time to peel to the left quickly before crossing that line? Maybe not. I probably would have had to brake and slow down and go behind him rather. So I decided, you know what, let's just go around one more lap. And, well, there's going to be a bit of contact here. Turns out the Spaniard, I don't know what happened earlier in the race, but we seem to be going to war quite a lot these days. We did it in the Euro final, and then now we have a bit of contact through turn 1 at Sao Paulo. Now coming down towards turn 4, it's going to be a similar situation. As you see on the radar, I mean, I don't know what the history is between these two. I seem to be getting caught up in the crossfire between the two of them, as we now have some rear bumper damage, and this was just really strange behaviour. I didn't really want to get caught up in a moment like this. As we explained earlier, you kind of want to run your own race and not really get too caught up and slowed down by others. But unfortunately that is exactly what's happening now, as boom, off he goes. Spaniard fires him off into the Shadow Realm, and I wasn't sure if this guy, you know, did they just have something that happened between them earlier in the race, or is he just indiscriminately wiping everyone out? I don't know. I went past him on lap 2 and seemed to be all fine, but perhaps he's had a change of mind. But anyway, he's going to serve this penalty, 2.5 seconds. Quite a lenient sentence there for murdering someone on the circuit. But anyway, going into the pit lane, only 2 laps on the hard tyre. That leaves me another 14 lap stint on the softs, having 1 second of aerodynamic damage to be fixed here. So we're going to lose a little bit of time as a result of that contact. So leaving the pit lane once again. Let's take stock of the situation. Rejoining here in 6th position. 11 seconds off the lead. So it seems a little bit confusing as to what's going on here, but there will be a number of cars going into the pit lane towards the end of the race to do the hard tyre, as everyone going for a bit of a different strategy. And it was quite welcome, you know, to have a race where different strategies were available. As we move up to 5th position, courtesy of some other cars moving into the pit lane. And it's really, again, a case of trying to eke out these tyres as long as possible. I learnt from the first stint that the front tyres are going to wear out faster than the rear, so we can move that brake bias slightly towards the back to protect the front tyres a little bit more. As of course, through these long sweeping corners, you're going to really put a lot of energy through that front tyre. You see the Spaniards there just gaining slightly through the middle sector. So even though he was 3 seconds behind me now, after serving that penalty a few laps ago, I was still worried. You know, you never know. Someone can still definitely catch up from 3 seconds behind, as it's quite a long race, 45 minutes we're looking at. There's still 11 laps or 12 laps to go. And so I was still definitely wary of that, especially given that I was catching this little battle for 3rd place. They in fact made contact there through turns 6 and 7. And so I really didn't want to lose too much time to these two. I was clearly quicker at this moment. I wasn't sure what tyres they were on. I would imagine the soft, but slightly more worn than my own, as I've only just come out of the pit lane a few laps ago. I definitely want to negotiate these two as quickly as possible. I'm going to tuck into the slipstream of the Porsche here in 4th place, and hopefully we can land a move here into turn 1. The guy in 3rd in the Alpha 4C. So we're going to try and negotiate the two of them as quickly as possible. On the inside, doesn't really fight it, which is a sensible strategy. There's no point in really fighting every position tooth and nail until maybe the end of the race, as you're just going to be losing and surrendering time. So we're going to try and get a good exit here off the Senna S and look for a move down towards turn 4. Alpha seems to be quite good in a straight line, at least compared to the Lancer here. Not really close enough. I tried to force him into a mistake, and he does actually carry way too much speed in and gets a poor exit as a result. And that was a nice easy move. Didn't really lose too much time on that one, or on either of them, to be honest. That was a result. So looking behind, the 4C goes into the pit lane, and so the Spaniard who's been chasing me down has slightly less work to do. Then as the positions change here through the infield, lap number 21, you see the gap goes to about 3 seconds. So it was coming down there slightly. It did go to about 2.1 momentarily, but then the Spaniard losing time as he had to negotiate and go past. So I think he did actually wipe that guy out because he's disappeared from the timing order. So again, this Spaniard, I really don't want to get close to him or allow him to get close to me, because I fear that he might do something very strange once again, like he did when I was on the hard tyres. So we're going to try and pull away. The gap is 10 seconds to the lead, and we now find ourselves on lap 28. So only a couple of laps left in the race. I'm now 5 seconds behind. I'm definitely gaining, but it might be too little too late. So I was just really wondering what the strategy was. I was thinking at this point, maybe I'd got it all wrong, and that these two guys up in front, as you can see in the distance, had actually pulled a blinder with strategy and somehow worked something different. Now, I did mention that people would be coming into the pit lane for the hard tyre at the end of the race, and that happened to be the case for this guy. The Brit who was in the lead now pulls in on the soft tyre going on to the hard. So that moved me up into 2nd with only 2 laps to go, and therefore not really long enough, or is it? I don't know what tyres this guy is on. He must be on very worn softs, I would imagine. and therefore it's just a case of, are his tyres going to go off enough, or is he actually going to go into the pit lane? Now thankfully, I mean, you can see my reaction here as it happens, but he does actually go into the pit lane. And spare my blushes, because I thought I'd really misjudged this race, and suddenly it turned out, okay, no, you have to wait for it to come good. And he came in and did his hard tyre stint right at the end, which quite a few people did, and therefore, yeah, it felt really close, closer than it needed to be. But ultimately, after 30 laps of racing, really happy to bring this one home for Mitsubishi. Come on, what a win! Get in there, Lewis. Oof. All the Porsches, 2nd to 5th. They're good tyre wear, I think, but the Lancer Evo, what a car. Great race. Getting 262 points for that, not too bad, but, you know, for me, normally for me, we want to get above 300, but 262, we'll take that for the first round.